What's up, y'all? It's your girl Amanda, and we are back with another episode of Mandy's Entertainment Reviews. So, for this episode, we are reviewing Luther Never Too Much, the documentary. This documentary's platform was on HBO Max, but if you do have regular cable, it did come on CNN. It was released in November of 2024 um, in theaters, and then it came on TV January on CNN. But if you didn't have cable, like I don't, it we had to wait a little bit longer. It came on HBO Max in February, probably a couple weeks ago. February of 2025. So I am a music fan. I grew up listening to Luther Vandross, and I've always wanted to see Luther Vandross's life story somewhere. He passed away in 2005. I was 10, so I was at that age where I didn't understand death. And I really enjoyed this documentary. And I also had just read the biography of Luther Vandross, so it didn't feel like it was copied out of the book, like Quincy Jones's documentary. Now, I am not, putting down Quincy Jones's documentary because it was really good, and you got to see behind the scenes of how Quincy Jones worked. But some of the narrations did come straight from his book, and me reading his book recently and then watching the documentary for the second time, I was able to kind of catch on that, okay, yeah, that's an excerpt from his book, and that's an excerpt from his book, and that's an excerpt from his book. And I got to hear from his background singers as well, who toured with him on shows and stuff like that, which I've never heard of any background singers of his for years. He's been gone since I was for 20 years almost. And I never heard once from his musicians or background singers. So it was pretty cool to hear from them as well. So, as you guys know, every Mandy's Entertainment Reviews episode, I go into a KWL. And if you did not read your grammar book reading books, KWL is know, want to know, and learn. And as always, I start with know that Luther was born in New York. He is one of the best R&B singers of all times who has a catalog spanning from the 80s to 2020, 2005, but his music is still being played on the radio, and there's concerts and stuff on YouTube of him, and people still speak so highly of him after he passed away 20 years ago. He had a close relationship with Patti LaBelle and Whitney Houston. If you ever see Whitney Houston do an interview with early day BT, probably like the 2000s or something, she spoke about their relationship. And also, Patti LaBelle did Drink Champs, and she spoke about how, her and Luther became close. Luther used to, give her clothes and stuff, and she said it didn't matter. We were poor and we loved new clothes. So they had a relationship there as well. And I think Luther was like the president of her fan club as well. So they always had a relationship. There was a part in the show, and I did see this part in the previews before I watched the documentary that he does not play with your ticket money. And in that words, he means that he's going to give you a show. He's going to give you a show. There's going to be singing and dancing and all that stuff. So he did not come to play with your ticket money. He sang backup on Sesame Street, which I did know. I knew that for a couple of years. He sang on an early episode of Sesame Street back in like 1969 when like color TV and stuff was really starting to come into play. He was a career background singer, so he sang background for David Bowie and all those, superstars, Dionne Warwick and all that stuff. He had diabetes, it ran in his family, which also contributes to weight issues. And another thing people don't know, because I'm a diabetic, is that diabetes does contribute a great bunch to stress. That makes your numbers go high. It makes you not live a healthy lifestyle. On top of, you're always doing stuff, so that adds on to the stress, and you never have time to eat like a healthy meal or stop to eat stuff because fast food is just always there, and you don't have time to sit down and it's quicker to grab a sack than to sit down and cook some salmon sometimes. And I think that's what happened with Luther Vandross as well, and his weight issues. He lost his father at a young age. I think he was 8 when he passed, when the father Vandross passed away. And then also his sisters passed away, one from diabetes, another one from an asthma attack. And his mother passed away 3 years after Luther passed away. I remember when she passed away too. I heard it on the radio. He's worked with Mariah Carey and Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra put out an album like in the 90s where I think it was like a cover album. I'm not sure, but Luther was on there. And then Mariah did My First Love, which came out in like the early 90s. So right around the time she first came out. He passed away in 2005. He had a stroke, which kind of alternated his life, and he ended up having a heart attack, which that ended up killing him. And also he worked with Aretha Franklin. But here's something I didn't put in the learn is that they had a difficult relationship and they always fell out. But Aretha did go to his funeral. I did watch his funeral. It's on YouTube, and she was there singing with like Alicia Keys and Freddie Jackson and all of the R&B greats. So want to know. So I had just read the biography, so I learned a lot in the biography. So when I watched the documentary, I'm like, maybe I'm gonna know everything that was said in the biography and all that stuff. So I'm probably not gonna have any want to knows. But as I was watching the documentary, I did have two questions. One was any of Luther's concert costumes donated to music museums? So, for example, if you go to um, the Hollywood Music Museum. I don't know what it's really called, but it's like they have Michael Jackson concert costumes there. If you go to like the Hard Rock, they have the Jacksons costumes there and stuff. So were any of his, costumes donated to those type of museums? Also, did Mariah have a friendship with Luther after My First Love? So after Mariah's first album came out, like her career skyrocketed. So did she keep a relationship or a friendship with Luther where she can call him and ask questions and all that stuff? Was that in play? So let's get into the learned. So again, I always have to say this disclaimer because I don't want y'all coming in my comments. Did the learn answer your want to know questions? I have been doing this podcast for a while. Some of them do answer my questions, some of them don't, but I just still find it fascinating to learn said fact. So the first fact I learned was that this documentary was actually produced by Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is one of, in my opinion, the best R&B singers as well. Have you heard the Unpredictable album? Hello, so I was very surprised, and he did a really good job. Like Jamie has been really on a roll with production and what he's been putting out. So I'm not surprised if like Jamie puts out another album or if he just does another movie or whatever. We just want more Jamie, and we're happy to know that he's doing well and he's recovering from his stroke that he had like a couple years ago as well. So that's always good to see that, someone who is so multifaceted just, expand their brand. Another thing I learned, I've never seen a Luther Vandross concert until I was older because, when you're a kid, you don't really care about a lot of things, but then you get older and you actually, take the time to see things and study things, is that his background singers were very glamorous and they wore very glamorous clothes. They wore sequins and their hair was just beautiful. Like they were just beautiful. Like I read the book and it was just descriptive words to me. But once I really saw it, it was just like, wow, that is so fabulous, honestly. He sang background in Change. Now there's this song called Glow of Love, which I've always heard growing up on the radio here in Chicago. I always thought that it was his song, but it was the group Change's songs. He did the head vocals for it. Let's see. Alan Thicke co-hosted a show with Arsenio Hall. Now, it didn't go into detail about, what was the name of the show and all that stuff. I just saw Alan Thicke in Arsenio Hall, and I've never seen anything like it. So that was pretty shocking. Um, Also, I did put this in here. I've watched the movie House Party 1,000 times. The first House Party, I should say. Do y'all remember the part where Kid walked down the stairs and a bad boy having a party came on, and he walked down the stairs to the beat of shibididididid. He like walked down the stairs in rhythm with that part of the song. I don't know if y'all ever noticed that, but I've always noticed that for years, but I didn't care to put like the irony in, or not the iconically, I should say. I never put those two together until I got like 30 years old. So that did happen. He had a mini Jerry curl. If you know, you know, you watch like Kings of Comedy and stuff, Cedric the Entertainer. Luther got that curl, that not bright red curl. So I call it a mini Jerry curl. He didn't take Eddie Murphy's insults so serious, because normally when someone talks about someone's weight, you know, they kind of get in their feelings about it. But with Eddie Murphy's KFC joke that he made on, I think it was on his first comedy special, like Luther didn't take it serious at all. He even brought a bucket of chicken onto the stage with him. So I'm glad he found humor in that. Let's see. I understood his reason for emotional eating. I mean, of course, having a career in show business is very up and down and can be very stressful. So I get why. Um, a part Jamie Foxx said in the documentary was that people actually held phones to the radio to dedicate a Luther song to their lover. See, I'm not from that generation. We'll sing you a song through Apple Music or something. We didn't hold no radio up to the phone and all that stuff. Luther was on In Living Color with Wanda, Jamie Foxx's character, of course. I didn't know that. I probably didn't even see that episode of In Living Color. I like the seasons with Marlon and Jamie together. I think they all left by season 5 and they brought in all those strangers. So I didn't know he was on In Living Color. Dance with My Father was written by Richard Marx. I didn't know that. I always knew the song, but I didn't know it was written with Richard Marx. He has a podcast that I am actually now following. He hasn't uploaded his first episode yet, so I'm waiting on that. Let's see. Mariah Carey says she was nervous to sing with Luther, which I understand because this was early career Mariah Carey. If you asked Mariah Carey to sing with Luther in 2002, she probably wouldn't have the nervousness. But it was like 1992 was her early career, so I understood why. Um, Luther didn't want to upset the world, so that's why he didn't want to come out, and that was according to Patti LaBelle. Um, But you know, if Luther was alive today, he did come out. I'm sure like it nothing would change for him. And that's why sometimes I did wish he would still be here and he could do that. And you know, he could still live his life, you know. Just, you know, be happy. He really did eat the Luther burger. So if you don't know what the Luther burger is, it's a burger, but in the buns, like you would normally have a burger bun, but the buns was Krispy Kreme donuts. And that had to have been like 2,000 calories right there, because do y'all know how soft but sugary the Krispy Kreme donuts are? For real. Like he really did eat that. And lastly, Superstar, Don't You Remember You Told. I didn't know that was a cover song from a band from the 70s. And that's one of my favorite Luther songs. So let's go to the ratings of this documentary. So I do give it a 5 out of 5. I loved seeing the magic behind the music. I love seeing artist interviews. It didn't matter if it was in the documentary or if it was archived. And also, I saw Clive Davis. So I had just actually finished reading his memoir as well. And he's worked with so many people over the years in so many genres. And he's like in his 90s now. So it's always so good to see Clive Davis. So thank y'all for listening to this episode of Mandy's Entertainment Reviews. There are going to be more episodes, so don't cry. I ain't going nowhere. And with that being said, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.